So I'd like to welcome you all to the Build2Scale Health Get to Know You session. This is part of the continuing initiative with the Health Innovation YGK, which was supported by a substantial grant from FedDev. And it's wonderful to see people from all the parts of the ecosystem in the region here. I'm Jim McClellan. I think I've probably met most of you, but if I haven't, I'm Jim McClellan. I'm the academic director of the Dunin-Deshpande Queen's Innovation Center, and I've been involved with it since we started 10 years ago. I'm also a professor in chemical engineering, which is my main home, and cross-appointed to mathematics and statistics, and school of drama and music, and I also teach in the business school as well in Smith. And so we've got a number of people who are going to have some words of welcome and vision, and then we're going to jump to the various venture teams who will have a chance to introduce themselves to you. Okay. First of all, I'd like to welcome, we've got people here from, I'm doing a good job so far. We have people here from the city of Kingston, from Kingston Economic Development, St. Lawrence College, Faculty of Health Science, Faculty of Engineering and Applied Science, Faculty of Arts and Science, Smith, and the Human Mobility Research Center, and Center for Health Innovation. Ingenuity Labs, Center for Advanced Computing, and Queen's Partnerships and Innovation. So we're really pleased to see people coming from all over. This is also related to the Rural Health Innovation Network that we're working on, and also the Build2Scale Health 2022 cohort, as well as the Build2Scale Health and Foundry and Quixie alumni from past years. And also, in part, I think through the live streaming, through the global network and innovation fellows that the Dunin-Deshpande Queen's Innovation Center has. We are recording this, and so I hope that that's okay. We just want to have this, and so we can make it available to people that weren't able to attend. And as I mentioned a minute ago, this has actually been a great week for health innovation for the Kingston ecosystem. And perhaps Mayor Patterson might speak to this as well. There was the Center for Health Innovation sessions on Monday and Tuesday. There was the Kingston Syracuse Pathway conference on health innovation on Tuesday. And so now we're going to also showcase more of the health innovation ventures in the region. I'd like to begin by inviting His Worship Mayor Ryan Patterson to come up and say a few words of welcome. Ryan did his master's and PhD at Queen's and then stayed in Kingston. He's a professor at RMC as well. I have to say that the mayor of Syracuse was up on Tuesday and they don't use the term His Worship. So I refer to them as their worships, I think. So whatever the plural of that is. I think they quite liked him because the mayor of Syracuse was standing with his entourage afterwards, and they were going, "Your worship, your worship." See, there's an innovation, or I don't know, we can pass that to the US. Anyway, without further ado, Brian, we are very grateful for the vision and the support that Mayor Patterson has shown during his term. And I've said this a few times, I grew up in Kingston, and I love the Kingston region. I've been elsewhere as well. But it's just really exciting to see the momentum building and the energy that you have helped lead in this region. And just want to say thank you very much. Very much appreciate all that you've done and your team. Thanks.
Thanks for the kind introduction. It's a delight to be here for the Build2Scale Health Showcase event here today. And it's great to be in the same room with like-minded people that all understand the power of an idea, the power of innovation. And, we talk about, how that idea can be applied to so many different things in our society, healthcare. And there's just never been, I don't think, a greater understanding in our community, our society at large, about the importance of healthcare and the need for new ideas and innovations. And I'm excited by, when we talk about building an ecosystem, first and foremost, often we talk about the space and we talk about the collaboration, it's the people, right? It's you guys that are right here. It's putting our minds together. This is where these, world-changing ideas come from. And I don't know how you couldn't be excited about that. to be honest. It's a pleasure for me to be able to see all of the great work that's happening and the partnerships, how we're all working together. We're all moving in the same direction. And, you know, we did great work, I think, over the pandemic, trying to stay connected and work together virtually, but isn't there something about just being in the same group and just building those relationships and connections to a whole new level? So I'm delighted to be here. I know it's going to be a great event. I'm looking forward to hearing more about the ventures that the teams are able to come up with. There's always room for another great idea. So I'm excited to hear what you guys are talking about, what you come up with. And a big thanks to everybody at the DDQIC end, the Queen's end. You know, I can tell you on behalf of the City of Kingston, what a pleasure it is to have you guys as partners. Things are able to work together. And I know there's great things ahead. So thanks very much. Thank you.
We have very much, speaking of people enjoying working with, Craig Desjardins, who's the director of the Office of Strategy, Innovation and Partnerships with the City of Kingston. And we've enjoyed a very fun and I think fruitful collaboration with Craig and his team. Things like the Mayor's Innovation Challenge and all these other health innovation YGK initiative and many more to come too. But I'm going to invite Craig up to say a few words, but this is all part of, I think, the very special ecosystem that we're building here. So Craig, please come join us.
Thank you very much, Jim. I love the energy and excitement of these days. From my earlier career, that was one of my favorite jobs. I'm really here for one reason today, and that's to say thank you. Thank you to Jim, Greg, Chloe, Katie, I saw a bunch of others of the team at DDQIC. The amazing work that you're doing is really it's just incredible. So thank you as a partner. But perhaps more so, to echo the mayor's comment, was really to say thank you to the entrepreneurs. Thank you for helping to grow our economy. Thank you for helping to solve the problems of health. You know, there's a lot of challenges for our healthcare system. So the work you're doing is making a difference in people's lives. You know, when we were developing the integrated economic development strategy and made health innovation one of the pillars of that strategy, and then we developed this program with FedDev to sort of get some funding. You know, we sort of didn't know it was going to work. You know, that's a little bit of entrepreneurship on our part. You know, we sort of put something together and put it out in the market, and you know, really the response, the early successes we've had, the growth in our collaborations with organizations has really validated how important health innovation is to our community and to the economy. And you know, really excited to say that we're so positive on sort of this direction. We're already beginning health innovation in Kingston 2.0. We start to imagine what comes next. I know we're only in year 2 of a 3.5-year project, but we see the potential. We see your excitement, and it's just everybody sees some amazing things. So thank you very much. Very excited to see what you have for us today, and can't wait to hear from it. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Craig. Now, did you want to say a few words?
Thanks, Jim, and thank you, Mayor Patterson, for the kind words. We're really excited and looking forward for this health innovation ecosystem that we have to continue to grow, not only throughout the second year of our Build2Scale program, but beyond that. I do have a little logistic announcements for all of you. We're going to have 8 teams pitching today. The pitches will be around 3 minutes each. So we'll have around 7 minutes for questions. We do have a bit of a large group here today and virtually as well. So I'll be timing the questions. If we run out of time, I apologize in advance, but I may have to interrupt. So the questions will be first come, first serve. For those joining virtually, please make sure you're muted unless you're speaking. We also ask that you add any questions or comments you have in the chat or raise the hand raise feature. And Megan from our team will be monitoring the Zoom. And overall, we really just want to say that this event really is for these new teams and some alumni teams to get some preliminary feedback and insights, and most importantly, really to start building some really fruitful connections, which we hope will take them to a really great journey of success moving forward. So since this is the second year that we're hosting the Build2Scale program, we did invite 2 alumni teams to pitch. The first one will also do a little intro presentation, talking about what the program was like to him. So with that, I'd like to invite Andrew from Narcissus to get us started. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Yeah. I guess first off, thanks so much for really exciting. Let's see, I'll just click on that. Okay, so yeah, I'm Andrew Lingard, CEO of Narcissus Biotherapeutics. My day job is the chief resident physician of pathology molecular medicine. After this, I'm also an alumnus of the Canadian Institute of Health Research direct home training program at McGill University. That's the awkward ending off there. But last summer, I had the pleasure of being part of the inaugural DDQIC summer Build2Scale program, and that gave me the kind of funding and the guidance to really get our option reformulation process off the ground with our first drug, which was Cisco for hepatic encephalopathy, which is the deadly complication of liver failure, and Neuro4 for epilepsy. So since last summer, Cisco program, we were able to get Dr. Nathan Bass, who is Professor Emeritus of UCSF, to join as a scientific advisor. And importantly, he was the chief investigator on the only FDA-approved and Health Canada approved drug for hepatic encephalopathy. And with his support, we filed with the FDA and got an initial favorable opinion about using their expedited approval process. And with that in hand, this support, obviously the support that we got with DDQIC, we're able to engage with a pharma partner, and now we're negotiating using the manufacturing facilities to manufacture Cisco for clinical trials. And again, the funding and support we got from the DDQIC allowed us to continue with our preclinical development of Neuro4 for epilepsy, and should be hearing back from the FDA and Health Canada over the next 2 weeks about using a different pathway called the accelerated approval pathway, which will allow us to get that drug approved up front and market it with the expectation that there will be a confirmatory trial down the line. So I'm actually going to give a little update on 2 new technologies we're working on that I'm very excited about. And apologies to anyone who was there on Tuesday, there might be a little bit of overlap with what I talked about. There's something different at the end of this part. So the first one is DDQIC for pancreatic cancer. So just to introduce you to our fantastic team around this project at Queen's, Dr. Myers-Jujak. So he's a professor at Queen's, very well published, and importantly, a couple of those publications helped launch a clinical trial for a pancreatic cancer therapeutic. So he knows how to do that. Dr. Tao Wang is our another scientific advisor using this part of pathology molecular medicine, and he's going to be helping develop the companion diagnostic, which I'll talk about shortly. And Dr. Jim Biaggi, who's a medical oncologist, also part of the Canadian Cancer Trials Group, and is the lead Canadian investigator on the large clinical trial, international clinical trial to establish the current standard of care for pancreatic cancer. So we're very excited to have him on board and guiding that program. So many of you are probably quite familiar with pancreatic cancer being incredibly deadly disease. The battery. So it came into kind of the public eye with this, very public battles of thanks, Jim. Steve Jobs and Alex Trebek more recently. But many people are very surprised actually at how bad pancreatic cancer is when I talk about the numbers. Considering less than 3% of all cancers are pancreatic cancer, actually it's the 3rd leading cause of cancer death. And that's mostly driven by the fact that within 5 years, 94% of people who develop pancreatic cancer succumb to the disease. Part of the reason for that high mortality rate is because very few patients are eligible for surgery when they present with the cancer. And surgery is the only curative intervention at this point in time. Whether patients are receiving surgery or not, the majority of them receive one of two very highly toxic chemotherapy regimens. And unfortunately, the last 2 decades of experimental therapies for pancreatic cancer have been littered with failures, whether it's because of untenable toxicity or just lack of effect. So really, the ideal experimental therapeutic for pancreatic cancer would be something that augments existing chemotherapy without adding toxicity. So that's why I was very excited in 2018 when a paper came out for about cannabidiol, which is a cannabinoid found in the marijuana plant, that showed that it had very strong effect against pancreatic cancer in an animal model. So here, the takeaway from that image is that it extended the survival of this animal in the animal model by nearly 3 times that of the control group when combined with one of the chemotherapy agents that's used currently. So that's what we call the drug development field is a slam dunk. Going to go ahead and definitely do a clinical trial with that, right? Fortunately, no. In the last 4 years, no clinical trial has been launched for cannabidiol for pancreatic cancer. I'm not privy to the exact reasons why that is, but I have sneaky suspicions that it's because although cannabinoids in general are obviously very popular recreational drugs, they're not fantastic medicines. Part of that is because less than 3% of cannabinoids are absorbed when taken orally, and that which is absorbed is cleared very quickly by the liver. And so cannabidiol is actually currently approved for epilepsy. However, these patients have to take very high amounts once a day to get to the therapeutic level. Also because marijuana cannabinoids have been around for so long, there's really limited opportunities for intellectual product generation. So looking at that, I designed a molecular modification to cannabidiol, but unfortunately, when I was looking for partners, no one could really deliver on my modifications. The technology just didn't seem to exist. So I was very excited when I met with the team at Design, which is a spin-off from UCLA. So they were able to purify all of the enzymes from the marijuana plant cannabinoid synthesis pathway, and they have them in just a bioreactor. So it's just a soup of enzymes. So you put in your feed stock in the top, and then out from the bottom comes orders of magnitude higher yield of cannabinoids than any other synthetic process, whether it be totally synthetic or biosynthetic. And that platform also gives an unprecedented level of ability to modify these molecules, including the modification that I designed. And so with that, we partnered and we're developing Canna, which is an intravenous infusion drug product, so bypassing that oral absorption issue. Also, the molecular modifications that we've included slow metabolism by 90% when compared to unmodified cannabinoids. And with their cell-free biosynthesis platform and these modifications, we built up a very strong intellectual property position around this program. Just to get back to pancreatic cancer, the market, so around 60,000 people are diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in the US every year. And about a third of those are susceptible to CBD because of the findings in that paper I mentioned before. So cumulatively looking at that, there's about an annual market opportunity of $1 billion a year. Beyond pancreatic cancer, though, several other very difficult to treat deadly cancers also have that susceptibility to CBD. We don't have great data on what size of those patients, the proportion of patients that would be susceptible. We're looking into that currently, but brain cancer and triple negative breast cancer, which with pancreatic cancer kind of form this unholy trinity of very awful cancers. They will be susceptible, and we're interested in finding out how many of them will be able to help. Also, oral Canna will likely be able to use as a once daily dose therapeutic in epilepsy, saving those patients just endless amounts of liquid cannabidiol. Also, the modifications in that platform allow us to make a THC product, and there's very strong clinical trial data to support THC's use in various neurological disorders, including Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, and Huntington's disease. So very excited about the opportunity for that. Again, opportunities that no one has seized because of the lack of intellectual property positioning. So today we've been able to introduce those modifications and scale up the production. We've completed the initial preclinical development that's allowed us to secure the intellectual property position around this. And then moving forward, we're this half of the year, we're going to be receiving regulatory guidance from Health Canada and the FDA around the use of an accelerated approval pathway. Seems like that's all I say these days. For this, because CBD is approved and like the modifications we've introduced do not make it a different molecule, just a different drug product. And we're going to be moving forward with further preclinical studies on the basis of that guidance, and then obviously fundraising. We're partnering with a large pharma to proceed with clinical trials and looking for clinical trial sites. Again, this would have been possible without the support I received starting last summer and continue to receive from the DDQIC guys and gals. And also had fantastic support through the QCPU, which is a clinical research organization at FedDev Queens. I've done the majority of the work on my side of this program, and MDD Capital Group and design the US counterparts of this program. So the thing I'm also really excited to talk about today is the spin out from Narcissus, which is Narcissus Biotherapeutics. So developing our solution for the $3 billion a year annual problem that is transplant rejection. Our program advisors on this, Dr. Garner, professor at UT, cell therapy section head at Assistive Hospital, and the director of Translational Transplant Cell Therapy Laboratory. And Dr. Richard Sato, he's extensive industry experience as an executive for several pharmaceutical companies, and he was also the co-founder of the Advanced Regenerative Medicine and Tissue Engineering Consortium, which is a precursor to the CCRM. So we're excited to have his input as well. Awkward end. So you may be familiar that organ transplantation is a medical intervention of last resort for patients with organ failure. So these are people who have the hardest time with the smallest physical exertion because of failing hearts or lungs. People are literally being poisoned by a buildup of toxic metabolites from liver or kidney failure. So these people can spend years on the transplant waiting list waiting for a match. So what exactly is a match? Well, on the surface of all of our cells and organs, we have something called HLA, which acts like a barcode or serial number. So our immune cell can identify our cells as belonging, making up us. So when you're looking at someone else as being a potential match, you test their HLA and your own HLA to see how much those serial numbers match up. So if someone has close enough serial number to you, then they consider a match. But even a slight mismatch will eventually be caught by the immune system and rejection will occur. That's why we need immunosuppressive drugs to stop transplant rejection currently. However, these therapies are quite toxic and have serious side effects, which include autism, infections, and cancers. And despite the use of immunosuppressive drugs, organ destruction can still occur in transplant rejection. Just to give you some idea, the four most commonly transplanted organs are kidney, liver, and lung. In the first year alone, between 8 to 12% of these organs are rejected. In the 5 years, that number balloons in a organ-specific fashion, with 22% of kidneys being rejected and half of lung transplants being rejected, often with deadly consequences. This rejection has a serious financial impact as well. Considering the impact in upfront costs, the transplant rejection ranges from $4,000 to $50,000 to $1.3 million. That results in a cumulative loss of healthcare dollars of $1.6 billion in the first year. And then taking into account rejection after the first year, there was a annual loss of $3 billion a year. So what do we do? teach our immune system that these HLAs are not a threat, and that basically, could we use a natural process in the body to do that? How would that happen? So we could introduce HLA before transplant, and that's exactly what we're doing with that. To explain how I'm about to introduce the concept of programmed cell death. So every year in the human body, over 50 billion cells a day undergo programmed cell death. And to stop the immune system from thinking these cells are dying from an attack, they have a strong immunosuppressive signal that says, yes, we're dying, but it's not from an attack. And this is called PS, or phosphoserine. I'm just going to say PS, it's syllables. And PS is a very strong immunosuppressive signal that is present on dying cells. So to have complete control over that immunosuppressive signal, we modify living cells to have a PS coat and appear dead. And then each of these diplomat cells expresses a donor HLA that's tailored to the patient. We'll spend a little bit more on that later. But by pairing HLA and PS, you can drive organ-specific immunosuppression and reduce the need for toxic immunosuppressive drugs. So again, what exactly is diplomat? Well, I'm going to walk you through this over-engineered acronym here. Not exactly, but we took monocytic cells, immortalized monocytic cell line, and we modified them to have phosphoserine. But again, takeaway here is that they're live cells that look dead. So we plan on developing a comprehensive cell library of HLAs so that a patient can receive a transplant from any donor, regardless of mismatch. Just to give you an example, Tequila here needed my kidney. We would check our HLAs, see how much mismatch there was, and though each of those mismatched HLA, I would go to our cell library, take the appropriate diplomat cell, and then infuse them into Tequila before transplant. That would teach your immune system that that is not a threat, and theoretically reduce transplant rejection. And that process would seamlessly integrate with the current paradigm. We're also developing our antigen-design peptide system, which shelters HLA inside the cell. That might seem like a small point, but it'll allow us to use diplomat not just in the prophylactic setting, but also during acute rejection and in active autoimmune disorders, which is massive form. So obviously, I'm not going to just stand here and talk about this in theoretical terms, but we were able to show that diplomat cells trigger a similar immunosuppressive signaling. So we took macrophages, which are immune cells that clear out dying cells, or diplomat cells, and then when they're cold cultured together, macrophages engulf the diplomat cells and release high levels of IL-10, which is an immunosuppressive signaling protein. So obviously, there's a lot of work to do moving forward, but on the other end of this, there's actually a fairly straightforward commercialization pathway, considering that only 50 transplant centers in Canada and the United States account for a third of transplants conducted. So we're planning on marketing directly to those transplant centers to cover that third and really tap into that first billion. We're also planning on out-licensing, partnering with pharmaceutical companies for other indications. We're currently developing this as without a paired antigen for septic shock and other inflammatory conditions. And when paired with any known autoantigen, this could be theoretically used for any autoimmune disorder. So we're going to partner with companies that have deep domain experience in specific autoimmune disorders. So in the second half of this, we're going to be completing our in vitro transplant and autoimmune studies. And then we also have the Queen's Animal Facility here conducting a in vivo septic shock study. And then beyond that, we're hoping to use that data to leverage Health Canada's human proof of concept study. There are animal models that have human immune systems, but none of them really match well with this technology. So to really prove it works, we're going to use it in humans to help controls. But Health Canada is really ahead of the curve compared to all regulatory jurisdictions in having a human proof of concept pathway. And then we're going to be generating our HLA library and scaling the production of these libraries and cells. So I'm interested in talking to anybody who'd like to help us make the diplomat the future of immune suppression. Thanks again to DDQIC and companies, GCBU, done as much as possible about the funding and support we've received. Thanks so much.
Lots of additional things there, Andrew, from your pitch on Tuesday. Very
Yeah,
exciting.
sorry, I didn't overwhelm everybody.
No, it's very exciting.
Okay, just take a little bit of time for a couple of quick questions. Anybody have any questions?
Steve Smith, for your cannabinoid work, have you looked at whether your modifications across the blood-brain barrier?
Yeah, so cannabinoids across the blood-brain barrier modifications, that's a concern. So it's a deuterated cannabinoid. You were there when I mentioned that last time. So deuteration does reduce lipophilicity minorly, so that is a consideration where you have it top of mind. That, of course, wouldn't preclude its use in pancreatic cancer, but obviously with glioblastoma, although the blood-brain barrier is degraded in that setting, would likely reduce its efficacy. Yeah.
One more question, respecting IP issues. So obviously, everyone gravitates towards CBD and talking about cannabinoids, but of course there's a whole host of members in that family. So consider looking at modifications that not CBD, but CBN.
Yeah. So the InDesign guys are very interested in other cannabinoids because their platform allows them to make these very rare cannabinoids, in LCN, scale, Ganache. There's just not great data for any of those cannabinoids. So that's why we're starting where we are.
One more. Any other questions at all? Dave.
Hi, this is really impressive research. I'm just curious because this kind of business requires really heavy devotion, effort, and time and development. I just want to make sure how do you check or follow up on Caroline research that are doing similar or relevant studies so that you can make sure that you are still creating unique value and also you are learning and benefiting from the actual research.
So basically, how do we know our IP is safe?
Potential competitors and potential collaborations.
Yeah. Well, so the IP from this get-go on that, MDB Capital Group, one of their companies is PatentVest, and they have an AI technology that allows them to analyze current landscape. There's always a year lag to that because disclosure of original patents. But one benefit, at least with cannabinoids, is that there's really no other cell-free synthesis games in town, so we feel pretty secure moving forward with that. For the cell therapy, yeah, we're just kind of playing the normal game that everyone plays, hoping that no one else is commercializing the same thing within that year gap. Right?
Thank you. Thanks very much, Andrew. Well, Andrew, gave a sneak peek. The next talk actually is going to be about kidneys. So Akila from Nephron Health is going to tell us a bit about her venture.
A second. Take your time. So before we start, I actually don't do our pitches. My co-founder Natasha does our pitches, but this week she yesterday she got called in for a transplant surgery, and she got a transplant this morning, so she's not able to come to do the pitches. Really excited. All right, can you stand over there if you don't mind? Sure, can you stand? Let me just turn it on. Yeah.
So there's a reason in the engineering iron ring ceremony to talk about the perversity of inanimate things.
There you go.
Break your heart with something else.
Oh.
There we go. Excellent. Sheila, please take it away.
So as you know, today I'll be talking about kidney failure. Okay. So kidney failure is one of the leading causes of death globally, and it affects marginalized populations such as people of color and people in rural and remote areas greater than other people who live in cities and that are not in marginalized communities. So my story is my dad got kidney failure. It was really crazy. It was super fast. And we had a lot of trouble managing his disease. But I was really, really lucky that I had a friend, Natasha, who helped me through everything. And together we decided that we wanted to do more research in kidney failure. And we wanted to see what are other patients facing. So we learned that kidney disease was really hard to manage for many patients. And it really affected their life negatively. A lot of them were suffering for years on end because kidney failure has 5 stages. And as patients are going through the different stages, they're facing new obstacles. They have to adapt to the new realities and work with their practitioners so that they can have a better quality of life and slow progression and make sure they're not ending up in the emergency. Okay, and as kidney failure increases, the cost and complications increase. Disease management saves lives, and it also reduces costs. So practitioners, they're really frustrated because they need engaged patients. They need patients that will work with them so that they can slow this progression and manage the disease. But patients, they're having a really hard time. And there's too much information for them. They're not able to learn this information in time. And there's just not enough connection with the partner. So we decided that we're going to create something that fosters engagement in care, simplifies disease management, and provides an understandable place and information that you can have in one place. We looked at research out there. What were the best methodologies and best practices? We also looked at the priorities in global kidney care. To create what we have is a one platform solution that we're developing with CAC, and it really helps the life cycle management of a kidney failure patient. What we do differently than our competitors is have one-on-one coaching, and we prioritize lived experience coaching. That's coaching from other patients. So it makes everything relatable. And we also have certified people that they can also then relate to. Clicker just doesn't work. Okay, so this is what our platform looks like. It helps patients get ready for their doctor's appointments. It helps them manage their daily metrics, and it has coaching and assessments. Now, how the coaching works is patients do a self-assessment, or they can sign up for an online assessment. They meet with a coach that they have been matched with, and they have a learning plan that is automatically generated from the assessment. The coach then points them to the resources they need and walks them through the learning plan. And they are then able to connect with the right people they need and take the time to go through everything they need to learn. Because that was one of the biggest things we learned from patients. So our goal and the value we provide is to engage and empower patients. The impact we're providing is we're giving patients opportunity to get employment and also to learn from each other. And we're providing these support workers also more
employment opportunities so that they can help the community without burning out in their traditional jobs. And they're always looking for more places of employment, which is something interesting that we've learned. Our users are kidney patients, informal caregivers like me. Our customers are kidney patients, but they're also insurance providers. They're hospital networks, and they're dialysis centers and community care. So we've prototyped, done user research, we've tested out our educational material, and we have started testing our actual coaching concept. Right now, we're in the product development stage, and we're going to be done phase 1 of our app at the end of this summer. So we're in the early educational development material stage, and we're looking for pilot partners and onboarding resources. So this is my team. We have Roger, who's actually a renal at-home kidney care director. We have Natasha, who's that lived experience patient, and she's also a UX designer. And we have me as an informal caregiver. So how you can help us? Well, we need connections to nephrology departments, kidney care departments, social programs. And also, if you know anyone who has kidney failure, please connect us. We really want to work with high-risk groups. So if you have connections to that, and we want connections to renal clinics. And if there's any potentials for partners and grants, because we have to develop all this curriculum, so we need some funding to be able to do that. Thank you.
They're saying that the sound is better virtually without the mic.
Oh, really?
So,
Okay.
We'll try that.
Thank you, Akila.
Thank you so much.
Questions for Akila? Please.
Hi. So I was wondering, like, how do you do the year coding? Like, how does that work? Like, how do you make this year code? How do you create your year code?
Yeah, so there's an organization that will train coaches in the US for free. There's actually not a lot of barriers to training. So we will be training our coaches and having that assessment and that curriculum so they can rely on that. And recruiting is actually easy because there's so many people in the kidney community that want to help the kidney community. But there's also so many of them that are looking for employment because it's really hard for them to keep a regular full-time job while they're on dialysis or getting treatment. And so this is a way that they can provide value while they're still, getting treatment and being sick, and they can determine their hours and times.
Thank you. Any other questions for Keelan?
Not so much a question, but an offer. Just feel free to reach out to EC Smith. I can make some connections with you with the nephrology division, Department of Medicine.
Thank you.
So when you're talking the algorithmic matching for the patients and the mentors, what do you think drives a good partnership there?
Like partnership, we have a partnership with CAC that's actually helping us do that.
Oh, so you like when you're talking like the patient and you're pairing with the mentor, there's an algorithmic process. Like if I was a patient, what would be the best, or what would go into determining the best mentor for me?
So there's a list of criteria that you're selecting,
Okay.
which we're working on right now, and the coaches, they're filling out their own survey,
I see.
and then their match is done, and they have ranking, and then you can choose which coach best suits you.
Right.
Just like out of any platform, there will be like stars and rating systems and feedback. So people are able to assess, okay, these are my match coaches, but this is the best coach that I think I can have, and they can try them out.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, thank you very much, Keelan. We're going to move on to the next group, which is My Health AI. There we go. See, your voice is all warmed up.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's better if you stand.
I just want to talk of the.
Yeah. I'll just get it.
Okay, slides aren't showing yet right now. Is there a
Yeah,
certain
I know,
slide?
I'm just trying to get the clicker going.
I think probably if you stand right here, here's the. Yeah. There we go, that's it. That's slides.
Yeah, apparently Chris is fine.
All right.
Well,
Thank
thank you
you.
for everyone.
Let's go. All right, so today we're going to propose our solution to a problem that's plaguing hospital departments across the globe. Now, to root that problem is data. So what that means is hospitals leverage EHR systems to do a lot of things. They use it for data collection, data storage, and to do the basic functionalities of patient life cycles. What this means is it's kind of like a jack of all trades, but a master of none. Now, why is it bad to be a jack of all trades but a master of none? Areas like emergency departments become underserviced. Now, why? EHR is not built to handle the dynamic and unique workflows of an emergency department. So what happens then? You have practitioners going to chase, search, find relevant information that is not connected. What does this leave us with? We now look towards a solution to that problem.
Yeah, so everything that we're doing is we're trying to target patient care. Every tech solution we want this to be what's being impacted. We want to improve it for everyone. And we're doing this by partnering with the EHR systems. They're so heavily relied on by our hospitals, but as Nate said, they're not specialized enough for the EHR workflows. So our solution's rooted in the root cause of the problem, which is the data. And our core focus is aggregating all that patient data. So what we've been working with is our healthcare advisory team, understanding what data is really relevant when doing diagnosis and understanding hospital flow from the ER. And so once we understand that, we can go to these EHR systems through our partnerships and actually aggregate all that relevant data and present it in one place, which is a really novel idea right now to, again, save some efficiencies. Practitioners are currently chasing, always looking for the next data point when it should be all presented in front of them. And the best part is our team is really well versed in data science and software engineering. So once this data is aggregated, we can actually extend this data and give meaningful insights that can be actioned on by the healthcare teams to either improve hospital operation or improve patient care management. And that's ultimately, again, coming back to we want to improve patient care. And as Nate said, these systems that are currently used, the EHRs, look like they're designed circa 1990. It's not a great user experience. You see a lot of mental fatigue from physicians using the software and other healthcare practitioners. So we can wrap this all up in a beautiful looking bow, and which is so critical to get adoption and to make you feel like it's part of your everyday life. So with that being said, our goal throughout the whole program is to secure $250,000 in funding. And the core objective of that $250,000 is to upscale developers and to assist in costs associated with integrating into the EHR systems and deploying into our hospital partners. Now, the first iteration of our product is really going to be focusing on full transparency for every patient that walks into the EHR or into the ER. I want to know everything about the patients that have been there in the past. I want to understand everything about the patients that are there now. And I want to understand where the patient's care plan is going in the future. And to do that, again, it's coming back to data aggregation, solving the root cause that all the EHRs are facing when it comes to the ER workflow. So that's basically wrapping up what our first MVP would look like. In terms of what networks can offer us, the biggest hurdle that we're facing, particularly in the Canadian market, is access to hospital data. We have no problem getting kind of sample data from the EHRs, but actually getting behind the scenes of like a Kingston General Hospital, we need that data to optimize our solution. And we do have American partners who has lesser barrier to entry to access their data, but our preference, we both grew up here, we want to make differences in our backyard. So if we have access, any contacts to access data, that would be hugely valuable. Thank you.
Questions? Questions for My Health AI? Or suggestions in terms of getting access? None.
Yeah. So have you talked to the folks at Simpson?
At Simpson?
Yes. You know the acronym?
No, I don't know the acronym.
So it's the Canadian Primary Care Central Surveillance Network. They're here in town.
Okay.
They have access to about 2 million electronic health records. In the Kingston area, it's about 400,000.
And are they plugging it right into these EHR systems like the Epics and Cerner's of the world?
No.
Oh,
They're getting it directly from family doctors. It's primary care.
Okay. I mean, that's still good to know because like our solution is quite versatile.
Thanks, Tom. Other questions, comments, suggestions, Steve?
One question, so is this be an app-based platform?
Yes, it's a cloud-based web application to start with. We can expand to iPads and app. We've actually explored Apple iPads as well, understanding every patient spiking through. But yeah, the MVP web app.
It may be worthwhile reach out to the VP IS data HSC. Their science centers to look at a new platform, HIS.
Oh, okay, great.
For servers.
For sure, yeah.
And so 2023 of October, I guess.
Sorry?
Is it 2023 of October? It's going to be implemented?
Yeah, they're starting to roll it out now. I think they're going to do it in stages. I just don't know.
Yeah, the nicest thing about Cerner is like they're a major market player across Canada and the US, and we plug directly into them. So if we plug into here using Cerner, we plug into everywhere using Cerner.
So if you have some relationship with Cerner already.
No, but we will need like every partner, every hospital needs a partnership, but it's not fully just going to the Cerners as well. We need to have some sort of relationship there. So that'd be really good.
They're just to add more products to that, their APIs are public. We build the adapters that actually work with those systems. So it's the benefit of being able to be used at an Epic hospital or a certain hospital. But again, the challenge is really just it's Canadian based. We have to speak to the CTO, CIO, and really get the board foundations involved because Canada is extremely different states. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with the state's background, but they love to make money. It's a private model, it's a private enterprise. They love efficiency, and that's why Robin mentioned earlier about the potential for hospital partnerships in the states. Again, it's ideal for us to kind of provide a solution in our own backyard. But again, just kind of hitting those certain points for various sectors that are different in approach.
Yeah, most of the best way to do it is for Canada provincial information platform.
I just couldn't hear the last part, sorry.
So, well, our Canadian platform, health and care systems build on provincial access for relevant
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, question about kind of data security, how like you I work at my labs and my security is a big thing there, and we have lots of data. And you guys have any plan for security like data?
Yeah, like there's kind of two ways to do it. You can do everything on prem, which is obviously not the cleanest solution. But we also have like our cloud platforms, which are fully HIPAA compliant. So I mean, you're gonna lean heavily on their sort of certified security. We're not gonna host our own Mongo clusters of servers and do it.
Thank you. I think in the interest of time, we should move on to the next group. So thank you again, my Health AI. And up next is Food Truck.
They will be presenting virtually.
Okay, so Food Truck is presenting virtually.
So I'm just gonna set it up.
Okay, just a reminder, there's still some fruit behind there, and there's coffee too, if you want to take advantage of this very brief break. Now, is this being recorded, or are they actually going to be speaking? Oh, there they are.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, we can hear you.
Can we go? Are we good to go?
Yes, please.
Okay. So we are Food Truck Advanced Food Care Mobile Clinic. I'm Amanda, and this is Maria. Maria is a she's a food care nurse. She's certified in the Canadian Association of Food Care Nurses, and she's also certified in food management and diabetes. We are a mobile clinic that takes food care treatment to our clients. You can go to our next slide, please. Thank you. Our clients consist of people who have any kind of mobility disability or a mental impairment, but especially people with any kind of diabetic condition at home or in long-term care homes. According to Diabetes Canada, data from 2019 showed us that around 1.5 million cases of diabetes were diagnosed, and this number is estimated to go up to almost 2 million by 2029. So diabetes causes, you can thank you. According to Still Diabetes Canada, diabetes causes a lot of health issues such as neuropathy, blindness, cardiovascular disease, renal disease, limb amputation, and many other risks that reduce the lifespan from 5 to 15 years. Food ulceration is something that affects the lifetime of in 15 to 25% of their lives. So we applied a survey in different groups of people, including this group of Build2Scale. So people, informed people and educated people, and still 76% of them didn't know the diabetic people need food care regularly, meaning 4 to 6 months. We plan to reach, you can go to our next slide. Thank you. So our plan is to reach retirement homes and group homes, also hospital, diabetic education centers, dialysis centers, and we are also building our identity online, and we plan to have our advertisement on our own vehicle itself. We have already built treatment packages for specifically to some food care conditions, and we have a risk assessment of, for example, we know that we have a low staff configuration. We depend a lot on our vehicle and also parking availability and also the weather. And our plan is to provide training to expand our staff. So train new nurses with our food care knowledge. Build our own clinic on wheels. So this is our main plan, to build our own clinic on a motorhome, and contact supply companies to a possible sponsorship, maybe expand to other provinces, and one day franchising our food truck clinics. Because nowadays there are no food care treatments in the market that is dedicated exclusively to diabetic people. We also wish to value the food care nurse work, because this type of service is ordinarily taken for granted. And it's something that we wish not only to expand this health service that is very important, but also to educate the community about its importance. Because you can go to the next slide. Because food care is life quality. And we thank you very much, and we hope to hear you soon. Thank you.
Any questions for food truck? Right.
Wondering, is there a shortage of certified foot care nurses? And do you think, the ability to work from a mobile platform would help or hurt recruiting new people into the profession?
Not sure if they could hear. We heard the first part of the question. Yes, there is a shortage on foot care nurses. So there is the Canadian Association of Food Care Nurse, and nowadays there is only Maria in Kingston that is certified in this association. Registered. Yeah, registered. But this kind of service is unfortunately given as common, so there is no like a wound care. So there is no regulation that this should be treated by a food care nurse. That is also our goal, to let them know that this should be treated by a food care nurse. That is very important, because nowadays is given like a wound care by regular nurses.
And thank you. The second part of Greg's question was, do you think that this initiative will help in recruiting more people into being food care nurses?
Yes. Yes, and spread the knowledge of importance of this kind of treatment, and especially for diabetic people.
Yeah, to value nurses.
To value the work of nurses, yes.
Thank you, and you can imagine, I mean, in some respects, you can de-risk entry for some of those practitioners if you've got the infrastructure and the company. So you can imagine a model where they could become employees or contract through you, but then possibly look at spinning off some franchises themselves.
That's it. Yeah, we don't want just simply to go to their house and just give the service. We want to build this clinic on wheels to provide the nurse the proper condition and support the nurse needs to do this kind of service.
Right. Right. Any other questions from anybody? Oh, one in the back here.
Nice presentation, guys. Is this cost prohibitive for a regular foot care nurse to be able to grab their own franchise? Do they get paid enough and can they earn enough wealth to be able to start it, move it on, and grow it themselves?
I'm sorry, we couldn't hear it.
Oh, okay, I'll try again. Is this cost prohibitive for nurses, foot care nurses, to be able to get in as franchise owners? Do they get paid enough? How expensive is it to become a franchise owner? And is that a real viable way to grow, or are they going to need financing?
I heard the last part. If we need financing to start building this,
to be franchised.
I think the question is do you have a sense right now how much money it would cost for a new foot care nurse to get a franchise, to join into your venture with the mobile clinic?
well, we will need to. We are still not at the time to franchise it yet, but we will need a startup about $500,000 to get this motor home and build the clinic on wheels and all the equipment that is needed. Right now, we are running only on one nurse, and we still don't have this enough to build the clinic on wheels. We're providing only the mobile service.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much. I think we're going to move on to the next group. So thank you, Foot Claire. Next up is iGuide.
Just get the clicker. 1 second. Now that's right.
Yeah.
There it is.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Good to go.
Yeah, good to go.
So, hi everyone, my name is Kevin. This is Joe and Kenna. We are graduate students in mechanical and materials engineering, specializing in biomedical engineering. And today we will be talking about our venture called iGuide. So globally, musculoskeletal disorders account for 21% of total years lived with disabilities. With the population growth and increased life expectancy, there has been with the population growth and life expectancy, musculoskeletal disorders have been more prevalent. And this can cause mobility issues as they are in excruciating pain, and this can cause an inconvenience during their day-to-day living. And currently, the solution to treating these musculoskeletal disorders are medicine, physiotherapy, or foot or joint replacements. However, these may be inaccessible to people. These inaccessibilities range from financial inaccessibilities, long lead times for treatment, or lack of resources depending on the location. These inaccessibilities range can cause unnecessary stress and burden on people with musculoskeletal disorders.
Okay, so our overarching goal here is really to provide individuals everywhere with the tools they need to regain and maintain their mobility and functionality. And here at iGuide, we have the expertise and ability to rapidly prototype and design individual-specific solutions at a low cost and high efficiency. And we're also situated in Kingston, Ontario, which puts us in close proximity to major urban areas and large hospitals like Kingston, Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal.
We want to leverage these two assets to provide individual-specific assistive devices and surgical tooling to people not only in Kingston and Ontario, but hopefully eventually all over Canada. We believe that our individual focus, our process efficiency, and our convenient location will result in lower wait times, lower costs, and overall better outcomes for individuals everywhere who need guidance on regaining their mobility and functionality.
Here. Okay, thank you. So the customer segments that we've identified are those who are interested in assistive devices and then surgical guides. So our plan is to start with assistive devices. So for that, the user would be individuals with disabilities, so they would be able to bring these devices into their home and incorporate it into their daily lives. And then clinicians would be able to incorporate these printed devices into their rehabilitation facility. And payers for this may have to be the user themselves. It also could be OHIP or insurance entities. And then for surgical guides, it would be used by orthopedic surgeons in joint replacement or fractures or any other type of surgery. And then the payers might be hospitals, medical device companies, and insurance companies. So we know that there's going to be some challenges with this. So the first being our market, so identifying any competition there might be, and actually the amount of demand for these types of products. And then regulations. So because this is a medical device, there are quite stringent processes that we're going to have to follow. So our plan is to start with the assistive devices, since those will be class 1 medical devices. It's not going in the body, so that will be a little bit easier of a process for us to navigate. And then we'll kind of be able to get our footing and grounding, and then we'll be able to move forward with the surgical devices in the more complicated class 2 or 3 medical device regulatory process. We're also going to need to make sure that the quality of our products is high and that they're safe for all of our users to be using. And then the sustainability of our company. So we want to make sure that it's long lasting and that it's also environmentally sustainable. So that's really important to us. So if we were able to incorporate some type of recycling program of our devices, then that would be really rewarding for us. And then we also need to be able to create a business model that's profitable, but also allows a low cost solution to our clients. And we also want to be building and continuing working relationships with the professionals in this space in our local community. So the next steps that we have are research and to get out and talk to as many people as we possibly can in this field. So we need to do some market research and also research on our users. But the best way to do this user research is to go and talk to them and learn from their experiences, because no Google search will be able to tell us anything like they'll be able to tell us about the problems that they face in their daily lives. And we also would like to talk to professionals in this space, so occupational therapists, physiotherapists, surgeons, rehabilitation engineers, kinesiologists. And we also would like to talk to our potential payers to see their point of view on the financial aspects of this venture. And then lastly, we wanted to talk to other companies who have maybe faced similar challenges to we have to see how they were able to accomplish them and learn from their experience so we can incorporate that into our venture. So that's all that we have for you today. We would welcome any questions or feedback.
Thank you. Questions, comments, feedback? Sheila, I'll bring the microphone to you.
What are hospitals doing right now in creating this system?
So right now, I don't think it's necessarily the hospitals. There's companies that will sell these assistive devices, but they're pretty expensive and they don't necessarily need to be that expensive. So we think by 3D printing them, we can decrease the cost to make the device and also still provide a high quality product for the clients. So if the cost was prohibitive, which in many cases it is, then this might be something that would be suitable for them. I don't know if it's not.
Thanks. Other questions at all? Because I have one amongst other things. So you just said that you're looking at 3D printing.
Yes.
Like, are you thinking about specific kinds of materials that you're looking at 3D printing?
Not yet, but that definitely is something to investigate. So quality concerns with that for sure.
Good. And then the other one is from a business model approval standpoint, it seems to me that one of the value propositions you're offering is customizability. Okay. Do you see that leading to a problem where you might have one-offs? You know, I've got a one-off design for Jim McCollum, for example, it's a class 1 device, are there any issues navigating around that, or do I imagine that I've got essentially an adjustable device, that takes me 3/4 of the way, and then I can do the customization on that day end. Have you thought about that at all?
We have thought about it, and we know that we need to continue thinking about it. So I think that there will be some things that don't need to be customizable that'll be used for multiple different types of like problems that people may need help with. But then there also might be some aspects where someone needs like a wider grip or a smaller grip, so we could very easily change that before we 3D print it. But then there also might be situations where someone has a very specific niche problem where we would be able to work with them as engineers to design something specific for them. But you're right, the regulatory issues with that are something that we'll need to.
Yeah, and I don't know the answer to that question, but it doesn't stop me from asking. We have a question in the back. Let me bring the microphone too.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask, so who would be your competition and how much of a market is there for what you guys are offering?
So in terms of competition, our biggest competition, one of the reasons we've taken this approach of going for custom assistive devices and then also moving into the surgical tool realm is that currently there are patient-specific surgical tooling available from big box medical device companies in the States. Sort of as we discussed, our location in Canada means that we can provide a more efficient service, not having to deal with cross-border travel, supply chain, and distribution. And in terms of assistive devices, they're generally offered by smaller companies on a one-off basis, and so we have to understand better what our competition is there. But we're going to start with working with the Kingston region, working with individuals specifically to develop solutions for them.
Okay, Akil, you have another question or comment?
So with the surgical tools, often companies provide a lot of support within the operating theater. What kind of support will you be providing for your devices?
That's a great question and something that we definitely have to implement into our business strategy. Right now, we're just in the ideation phase, really, so it's something we have to consider. But again, that's sort of why we pivoted our approach from purely specifying in the orthopedic surgery realm to trying to incorporate other revenue streams, things like assistive devices, because it really is tough. First of all, overcoming regulatory approval and working in the Canadian healthcare system, but also competing with these really huge companies who do have the resources that they have. So.
Thanks very much. Okay, we're going to move on to the next group, which is Pocket Clinic.
Yeah. So
Is that another beamed in?
it's a virtual.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you see my screen?
You can see the screen. We're not in presentation mode yet, so just give us 1 second here.
I just shared with you.
Did you put it on presentation?
Yeah, if you can just click on the presentation. Yeah, there we go. Oh, you're not there yet, but you click. So tantalized. There we go. We're good.
Okay.
Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you very much, guys. It's a pleasure to meet you, and virtually, actually. I'm Amir, CEO and founder of Pocket Clinic. We are presenting a next generation of smart injector for all kind of chronic disease patients who need to inject medication continuously. But right now, our main focus is on diabetes. Did you know that 1 in 11 people among us suffer from a chronic illness called diabetes? This means around more than 500 million people in the world. Life of more than 10% of them depends on a drug called insulin. Although this is a lifesaver and keep them alive, it's not an easy drug to administer. It causes overdose or underdose due to the poor management. And still in this modern time, most of them are injecting it manually. You may ask yourself, there should be a better way. There is. This is the newest technology that markets offer. This is a piece of hospital equipment, which is very complicated, expensive, and their technology didn't change for almost 20 years. Mostly one-fits-all solution. They need to carry it all day long. Technology has revolutionized our world and daily lives. It has become the greatest multitasking enabler. This is our goal, living where real people live, which is a smartphone. Our solution is not a mobile app. It's a consumer medical device that can be controlled with a smartphone. It doesn't need to be held. It's waterproof, stick under the skin. It's the smallest pump in the market, easy to use at the same cost of multi-daily injections. We use AI system to optimize and personalize the insulin dosing while delivering updates to family members and caregivers. To construct and validate our patented smart injector, we've been collaborating with one of the biggest science and technology parks in Asia and the biggest hospital in Latin America. MEMS technology has been utilized in this solution, which gives us ability to reduce significantly in size and price. The smart injector consists of two parts. Main part, which is durable, rechargeable, secure, and reliable. Second part is cartridge with different capacities. We use microneedle to minimize pain and improve patient compliance. Also single button press for insertion, make it easy to use. We believe dealing with chronic condition is not just managing medications. Therefore, we build a community of people discussing their chronic health conditions, treatments, and diets. Besides that, we offer 24/7 supports from expert teams of nutritionists, psychologists, and physical training instructors via our app to make sure the treatments are good for the whole individuals with variable lifestyles. With our business model, we are able to reduce the upfront investment. Also, monthly subscription fee make it affordable for all income classes, even without insurance coverage. Besides being easy to use, pain-free with multiple applications, we are also differentiate ourselves on two main dimensions: accessibility and price, which makes it unique in this field. Global market for insulin delivery devices valued $35 billion by 2026, and in North America specifically reached to $18 billion, and we are targeting 1% of the global market. Our team is divided in sectors of engineering, medicine, and management. Our engineering team has various background in biomedical, electronic, and mechanical engineering with more than 10 years experience in these fields. And our medical team has more than 14 years experience in type 1 diabetes treatment. That makes us expert in our market. Our timeline is divided in 5 phases. We've finished manufacturing design. In this quarter, we are aiming to run a benchtop test and focus to close our seed round in quarter third of this year. And to start the process of regulatory approval. We are aiming to submit our FDA approval in quarter fourth of next year. And also we need another round of investment to accomplish our goal for launch our product in 2025. We believe Queen's University and these events can help us find capital and the suitable VCs in order to fabricate our first batch, grow our team, and launch our product. Besides cash, we are looking for mentorship and advisory to introduce us to the new market, help us to understand the regulatory process, and introduce to potential partners like hospitals and insurance companies. And yet, diabetes don't choose their disease. Don't they deserve to choose their treatment? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions for Pocket Clinic or feedback? Great stuff.
I don't know what the capacity of the little pump would be in terms of how much medication it holds, but I understand it's rechargeable and it's got a replaceable medication cartridge. What's involved in removing it from your arm and putting it back on your arm? Is that a bit of a process, or do you just sort of slap it on there?
Sorry, the capacity has, right now we can design it till 5, and we are just designed it 5 milliliter of medication, and it can be stick under the skin for up to 7 days, depends on the drug. For instance, in diabetes, the current conventional pump, they use it for 3, but I can say we are the first solution that it will consists to up to 7 days can stick to the patient arms. And also after the 3 or up to 7 days, the patient needs to remove it, change the cartridges, fill it up with the drug or insulin, and recharge the main pod and attach to another side of the body.
And we had a question actually related to, what's involved in actually attaching it to your body. So the process.
The process is like this. You fill the cartridge with the amount of the prescribed drug, attach it to the main pod, and on the bottom of the cartridge, there is the adhesive that you can attach it to the body. And then with the actuator, you release the needle, and the back pressure of the spring inside the cartridge pulls the needle under your skin. And then you send the command from your mobile application, the amount of the dosing that you need to inject via Bluetooth or communication Bluetooth that you have.
Thank you. And does the microneedle then stay inserted for the 7-day duration, or does it retract?
The question was not clear. If I understand correctly, the needle will stick to you during the injection or during the 7 days. The needle will stick to under the skin.
And it stays in place.
Sorry?
And then it stays in place.
Yes, stay in place for 7 days, up to 7 days. And it's not a stainless steel, it's the cannula based on the rubber or silicone that the medical grade.
Oh, you have another question back here?
Hi, that's great. I was wondering would you recommend this if I like sports or anything like sweaty or like possibly jolting it?
Sorry, I didn't get your question. If it's
what would be your recommendation if I need to play sports or like?
Yeah, this is a wearable pump. It's attached to your body during any activities, even swimming. With our design, we are able to waterproof it, and also the electronic is filled with the liquid that prevent any problem. And you can have a shower and also swimming and any sports. However, the restriction or the problem with the adhesive that if during the body gets sweat, you have sweatness in skin, the adhesive will remove. Otherwise, the pump, it's waterproof.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So let's move on to the next group. Thank you very much, Dr. Clinic.
Thank you.
Up next is Venus. Is that a virtual as well?
No, they're here, Ferris stuff.
Venus, sorry. Sorry, my apologies. Yeah, Venus. Sorry. Getting ready for you guys to sing. It's actually where my reading glasses. There we go.
You doing mic or on mic?
People are seeing virtually without the mic is better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, we're Varus. I'm Adam, and this is my co-founder, Vinny. And we're making an automated medical billing system. So, how does medical billing work? When you go to the physician needs to bill the government in order to get their funding. How they do this is based on your patient history and what they did at the appointment. This is all represented by a code. This is a code. It is a consultation code, and it bills $152. This is another code. This is another code. This is a non-exhaustive list of codes, each of which have certain criteria that must be met in order for them to be billed in a unique amount that is billed to the government when they are used. Now, let me paint a scene. You're a physician, you're 11 hours into your 8-hour shift, you've had 6 cups of coffee, and earlier today you met with Sally and you had a consultation with her. Now, the keener of you, which code should you bill? Now, the keen amongst you might remember that A345 is the code to bill consultations. So
let's bill it. Actually, as it turns out, we saw Sally 6 months ago for a consultation, but we forgot that. And A345 can only be billed once per year. What we should have done was bill A745 for $99. Now, how does the government deal with this error? Well, what they do is they round down to the lowest possible bill that they can in order to reduce the chance of overfunding. This results in massive amounts of underfunding, as every small error has large consequences when it comes to funding and billing. Just like that, we've lost $70. Imagine how many mistakes like this a physician can make over the course of a day, over the course of their career. This is where Veris comes in, and this is the problem that we want to solve.
At Veris, we want to streamline this process. So instead of giving the physicians a book or a spreadsheet, we're writing software that's going to look up their patient in our database, see the circumstances of the appointment compared to their history, and build the highest paying code that is valid in like seconds. We also, like for our market, the physicians are not our customers, they're actually our end users. Our customers are more hospitals and clinics, in which I'm pretty sure they're craving to have more efficient physicians, and they are also tired of having funding money being thrown out of the window because of typos. We're also tackling the problem very well because the physicians are going to have the relief and not have to stress about the codes. Instead, they're going to have all the time to be working with the patients, and which also implies they're making more money. So it's a win-win situation for everyone. We do have a few challenges though. Those include our competitors and security concerns. Although there are no major players in this industry yet, we're not the first to the game. And also it's extremely hard in Canada to deal with patient security in technology when it comes to healthcare. Our next steps right now are to complete our MVP, which we're working on it, and start a trial phase at the KGH, the oncology department, in which is where our third founder works at. And now we're happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Thank you very much. Let's maybe just mention your third founder.
So our third founder is Dr. Fabio. He's an associate professor here, and he's also a medical oncologist at KGH.
Thank you. Question? Stephen?
So two, one is, would that billing go directly to the province, or does it go to another platform prior to the province?
So the way it works now, you have the billings. There's no standard way to do it. So you can do it on an Excel spreadsheet or on paper. And then you're just going to have like a bunch of records. And then once a week or maybe once a month, the hospital is going to hire a freelancer to get all those papers and build it into the system straight up to OHIP in the case of Ontario, right? We have like 12 or 11 different systems in Canada. So that's how it works in Ontario. It goes straight to
my cheeky question is really, I'm sure the province loves the fact that people are underbilling. So how would you deal with the province?
So yeah, it wouldn't really work if we wanted to be hired by the government, because it's better if you're not sending as much money. But we could also be hired by physicians and the hospitals because they need that money. So they want to raise their profits. And it's actually a very bad case in Canada in which hospitals, they have an estimative in which they lose money. They run that trial every 3 months, and they've been losing money, and that includes Kingston.
But actually, for that last point, you might also think about instances where in fact there's an overcharge to the province as well, because just as a physician can undercharge, so might there be instances where code gets cleared through the system that actually results in larger transfer from the health insurer too. So.
Thank you, guys. My question for you is, you mentioned that the numbers change depending on what you're doing, what code you're doing. So something $160, something once a year. So if it's say October and somebody comes in and builds at the highest, how does your system go back in time and say, oh, okay, overbuild you at this given time, so you can do nothing at the next time. How do you sort of do that? So again, if a patient comes once a year, go to the highest, and then realize that they have to come again, how do you do that within the system?
So what our system does is it will look at it'll look at all the patient history and all the records that usually the physician would have to look through, and it will check through. So if a patient goes through, they'll have a unique identifiable number. It will check all the times that they've been there within the last year and then calculate if that code has been billed for that patient before. Does that answer your question? Pardon?
So like we have a record of how many times that one patient has been to the hospital. Because every single Canadian has like a CR number, which is like which we use when we go to the hospital. So we have records of how many times you've seen that one physician.
But maybe some predictive analytics. Yeah, no, it's an interesting question. If you say if you've saturated the bill, because I think that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if you build the highest number, you can't build it again. But when you decide to build the highest,
yeah. So are you, because you're talking about how you could, the A345 is a once per year kind of thing. I mean, I think the question is if there are codes where you, if you in a sense charge them too early in a year, you're then constrained for, essentially you could back yourself into a lower revenue situation because you use up some of the code capacity if you want. I think that was the question. Sounds like a business opportunity to me. So you could start imagining doing some predictive modeling.
Optimization.
And then I like that stuff. So. Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Thanks. Can you explain your key points of difference? You mentioned one of your concerns is your competition, which there is a fair bit out there. So what makes you different from your competitors?
Okay, so for the companies that are already in the industry, like the 5 main ones, none of them are really predictive of which code you're going to use. There is one, it's called Dr. Bill. However, Dr. Bill has like a rating of 3.0 and it's not used across Ontario. They try to have all 12 systems that Canada uses, but yeah, it's not that big, and the system is not great. Fabio or other founder tried it. It's not really predictive, and there's a lot of mistakes and errors that they had. And all the other systems, pretty much what you're doing is just you're replacing the paper with your phone. They're not helping you actually predict which code you should use. And that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, one back here. I'm getting lots of stuff today.
How does it work if I want to change doctors in the middle of a year? Like, with that doctor, like, seeing he as a completely new person, and like, how does your program, like, would it go to like, you have to transfer my information to my next doctor or something?
Okay, so the way we're not actually going to be storing a lot of your patient information because that's really hard with legislation. So the way it works, each bill is not actually for the patient. So the doctor can only bill that patient once a year. So it's the doctor. So if you see a doctor, they can bill that you once. But if you see another doctor, they can bill the same code again if it's the same time, if it's the first time they're seeing you. Does that make sense? No. You're a completely new patient to that.
But that's an interesting question, right? Is that whole sort of interposition, transferability of code records, which can only be helped if we go to a more central or single record model. Okay, I think that we'll stop there. Thank you very much, guys. And that brings us to Relife.
I'll take a look.
Okay. Okay. Can you try again? No? Not working. Okay, I'll just click it for you. Jane, just say next slide.
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll just say next. Okay, yeah.
I think we need a new one.
Hi, my name is Jane.
Peter. My name is Oda. So Article 13 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that everyone has the right to freedom of movement. Next slide. So you might think this doesn't apply to Canada, but let's use my city, Toronto, for example. We have streetcars that are accessible, there are ramps. We have subways that are accessible. We have buses that have ramps. Next slide. So the subway stations, 70% of them are accessible. And we even have a door-to-door service that is accessible. You might think this is good, but all of this is great on the surface, and that's all it is. It's a surface solution. As a wheelchair user and someone with a spinal cord injury for over 20 years, and someone who's lived all over Ontario, I've used these services in the big cities like Toronto, Ottawa, and I've even lived in Picton. And I'm here to tell you that there's a problem. If you need to get from A to B, as someone who uses a wheelchair or any mobility device, you're going to have a problem becoming an active and contributing member of society, because very simply, you cannot get to where you need to get reliably. These solutions are people who don't need to keep their appointments, and so it's a problem.
So, how does We Bike aim to tackle this problem? Next slide.
This is the customer profile.
Yeah, that's good. Keep going. One more. Okay. So how does We Bike aim to tackle this problem? Next slide. We Bike is essentially designed in such a way so that users can travel long distances at high speeds, all without leaving their chair. Users effectively roll up the ramp, strap it in, and they're good to get to where they need to go. Next slide. So the We Bike is essentially like an e-bike that's parked in the user's garage. He or she will not need to now wait for unreliable external transportation services to get from A to B. This effectively gives back the agency to the user so that they feel like a human being again and they can have their own transportation needs. Sorry. Oh, God. We-bike is also much safer compared to just transporting around a conventional wheelchair or a powered wheelchair. The frame of the We-bike will essentially create a barrier for the user to sort of encapsulate them and create a sort of roll gauge. Now, while it's safe, it is also designed to go fast, topping out at a speed of 32 kilometers per hour. We-bike is also very cost-effective and environmentally friendly, being battery powered. Now, being battery powered is very good compared to running a gas engine. Through rough calculations, I discovered that a battery powered solution is roughly 9 times cheaper than a gas powered. Now, a lack of accessibility and reliable transportation is a detriment to success. So it can be challenging for wheelchair users to get around, to go to their appointments, to go get a job, and even have a social life without some sort of solution.
Okay. Next slide. The We-bike team is extremely dedicated. The idea originated from Jane and Oda's time while they were still at university, and through the DDQIC program, it has enabled us as a team to learn a lot about knowing about our customers, building a prototype, product design, as well as building business building. So, and the intense workshop at the beginning has helped us extremely. Next slide. We're looking for professional support to help build a working prototype, but also to solve essential customer problems without adding additional issues to them. Next slide. Also, some initial financial support to help with building the prototype would help as well. Next slide. Next slide. So the reason why we're presenting today is that we're looking for people with better business acumen and also network support as we continue to grow our business and navigate the complex business world. Thank you.
questions or suggestions for e-bike or both?
Hi, this is really cool. I was wondering if, would you imagine this being used on a bike lane? And would this be used on a bike lane, and how much would it depend on the city having proper bike lanes? Like even just like a really thin bicycle right now, like I have to do a lot of acrobatics to like avoid getting hit. Like with a wider bike, like is this going to be a problem?
I would think that it would excel. I think it would excel in urban areas where there are bike lanes, where there are many places in Toronto that this would work. But you're right, there are issues there. I think it would also excel in urban areas like in that don't have any transportation, like in Prince Edward County and Picton, where there's really very limited options. Yeah.
I agree.
Good. Yeah, I mean, because I guess it begs the question of, would it be restricted to bike lanes? What are there insights that you can learn from e-bikes right now, for example, and how to use them? Other questions?
So one thing I was thinking about is the expectation that anyone that would require an e-bike, would you have someone at home ready to take people going? Like basically Uber for the e-bike. Would you ever allow people to rent out the equipment and you go into an app and say where's your e-bike you're meeting? And
So yeah, like obviously we're playing on some of these things. You have them in your home, and it's easy to just feel into them without listening to someone else by design. But we're also sort of talking primitively about creating sort of like a rental space for it. Like if you in the city of Toronto, for example, they have these sort of free bikes that you can pay whatever amount of money it is, I can't remember what it is, to rent out for some amount of time. Kind of thinking maybe do the equivalents to that, but like
it seems a little bit like the even snow removal. I'm not sure how it works on my truck. I know a lot of people will put the shovel on the front of their truck. They'll get some incentives, and then I'm not sure how the payment works. I just kind of like them when they're on the roads. So that might be a cool thing to look at.
Thank you. Other questions?
Great presentation. You had a really detailed budget there, or at least material budget for a prototype, which kind of hints that you've got a detailed design completed. Is that the case? And if so, what's the next step?
So far there's no like CAD work done. It's been a lot of sort of primitive calculations determining like torque values, stuff we'll need out of a motor. So it's sort of been doing primitive part selection. And so from there, basically in the next coming days and weeks, I'm going to be mashing it all together, throwing it to CAD to build the frame and everything.
Do you have an idea of what it will weigh?
I couldn't tell you that right now. If I had to ballpark it, around 45 pounds, I'd say.
Oh, I'm sorry.
45 pounds. It really depends on the battery. Yeah.
Just thinking about accessibility, when you get to your destination, are you looking at a collapsible system?
We've thought about it. Right now, we're sort of planning on designing a rigid body prototype just for simplicity's sake and to prove concept. But it is definitely something we'll look into if it's structurally feasible.
But yeah, essentially it's to serve the purpose of getting from A to B as quickly as possible without getting out of your wheelchair or mobility device. So it's there, the ramp comes down, you get on, it's secured, and you can turn it on where you need it.
But that's an interesting point, right? When in terms of thinking like when you because if you might imagine that you then put it in motorcycle parking space, for example, once you're there. And so thinking about, are there infrastructure adjustments as well to accommodate the bikes, so that it doesn't have to be that you make it collapsible necessarily as much as one way or the other, you work with jurisdictions to make sure that and properties make sure that there's those places to leave the lead.
You have to like retrofit, I don't know if that's the right term, I'm not an engineer, but like basically have an electric wheel on the front that would attach like around the wheelchair that would allow you to like basically make it do like a motorcycle.
There's That's actually a big category right now. It's called wheelchair power attachments.
Yeah.
I have one right now, actually. There's a motor at the back of my chair right now. So yeah, there's technology with battery and motors. There's attachments in the back. There's stuff that can hold you in the front. I actually have attachments here for something that I use as a hand wipe. So there are a lot of these options, but my wheelchair is worth over $14,000, and it's covered by the ADP Assistive Devices Program every 5 years or so. So this expensive chair with custom seating, I wouldn't want to attach something that goes really fast and risk this chair. So that's why the platform is important to protect your wheelchair or your mobility.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Is there insurance against your chair?
Sorry?
Is there insurance that you can think of against like a
for this?
Yeah.
So far, there's a lot of funding for a lot of these equipment, and recently, a lot of power assists have been approved. Before there wasn't, the front wheel wasn't approved. There was a lot of limitations. But in the past 2 years, a lot has been approved for funding. So that's our ultimate goal. Something like this could be subsidized in some way. That would be great.
So your next steps, are you looking for funding or a partner or a grant to build a prototype?
We definitely are looking for funding. So we apply to a couple places already to build to have that initial funding to purchase materials and build prototype, because we really truly believe that having that prototype and speaking to the customers about their user experience is going to help us immensely through the summer at the DDQIC, making us a lot more productive. Partners, we're mostly looking for technical professional partners in terms of almost acting like a mentorship towards our product design. And it's basically the statement that we made, meeting the legal requirements, but also solving the critical problem for our customers without adding additional issues for them. So identifying those additional issues that could possibly come up with this, product, right? And I think we've identified some of them are already thinking about ways to mitigate those issues for our users, basically giving them the best user experience possible. So that, I hope that answers your question.
Just a quick point, and then you may have looked at this already. The Red Cancer Foundation funds several accessibility projects, so that may be an opportunity for additional funding.
Which?
The Red Cancer Foundation.
Red Cancer. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Great suggestion. Any last questions? Oh, you're chatting.
Yeah. Are there social programs right now, like to offload some of the costs, like if you need to take like accessible taxi anywhere, is that subsidized? Is that something you could like transition to the owner when they might
Right now, there's I can only speak to where I've lived, like big cities like Toronto.
Yeah.
There are Uber has a subsidy program, so they subsidize wheelchair accessible Uber rides. Other than that, there's the door-to-door service, like I said, which is not reliable. But yeah, there's subsidies in that regard. But that's only in big cities. There's no wheelchair accessible Uber here for you.
But I mean, an interesting related thing is the extent to which you could perhaps sit down with regional governments as well and agencies to sort of re-examine the mix of driver-based solutions like wheel trans and things relative to a distributed model where you've got some degree of funding to support buying, like a partnership or something with WeBike to enable people to and maybe have a more effective mix of funding as well. I think we're going to stop there. So thank you very much, WeBike. And that brings us to the end of our program. So let me just make a couple of closing remarks. I might invite my colleagues. Any colleagues want to make any closing remarks? Oh, okay, there's a go for it, Jim. So, we really appreciate you coming in and having a chance to meet the ventures. Some of the ventures that you've seen, you can see that the health innovations are spanning a very broad range. Everything from your APIS to assistive programs for community-centered, patient-centered care to mobility solutions. And you can see that there's also a range of companies spanning from ones that have been at it for a bit longer to ones that are very much at a formative or creation stage. Okay? Please, if you have any ideas, any kind of connections, suggestions that you can make, please do feel free to reach out either to the individual ventures, or certainly feel free to reach out to DDQIC as well. We can certainly have, we'll be very happy to get you connected so that you can share those connections. I'm hoping too that if you reflect on the week that we've had here, there's momentum. Okay, there's momentum across the region in health innovation. And so let's keep going. Okay, there's been great engagement. It's clear that we have lots of talent and creativity and energy. And so let's build on that, working collectively together. Certainly, we're very happy to help out at DDQIC, and I know we've got people here from CIC CHC, the Center for Advanced Computing, and other partners in the ecosystem, St. Lawrence College, and so forth. So, and health sciences. So please don't hesitate. And I don't read all of them. Please do not hesitate to reach out, and hopefully we can have some periodic in-person. It might be a Build2Scale get to know you, but we're also hoping to sort of resurrect the Ignition Cafe that we used to have before the pandemic, back in the last century. Where we periodically get together and share ideas. Please also keep eye open for things like the Kingston Health Sciences online workshops that we've been doing, and also those rural health initiatives as well. Okay, so thank you everybody. There's more goodies at the back, courtesy of Old Farm, and very much appreciate you coming, and certainly you're welcome to stick around and chat some more. Okay, doors always open. Thanks everybody, and thank you to the team for that.